Delegate Guyton uh, has represented District 42B since 2019 and is the newly appointed Vice Chair of the Environment and Transportation Committee. Congratulations, Delegate. She has sponsored or co-sponsored legislation to protect agriculture and conservation easements from eminent domain, upgrade septic systems through the Bay Restoration Fund, end PFAS use in pesticides, and ban gasoline-powered leaf blowers, which we just heard, among many other initiatives to protect Marylanders and the environment. And so, Delegate Guyton, thank you for joining us today, and thanks for sponsoring this important legislation that we're going to hear about.
Thank you so much, Matt. And it is wonderful to see everyone on here today, and especially to follow three of my favorite colleagues, Delegate Foley, Delegate Lehman, and Delegate Stein, all former and or current colleagues on the ENT committee. And now we also have energy. So it's a busy year for us. Thank you for shining light on all of this legislation and, of course, on this bill as well. This bill was sponsored last year as House Bill 747, but we do have a number for this year. It just popped up. We are House Bill 146, and that has been pre-filed, so it is in. I also have a cross-file this year, Senator Ben Brooks. And if you remember, this bill actually did pass the House committee and the House floor. It passed the Senate committee, which is usually the hard part, and was stalled in the last 10 minutes of session on sine die. So we are hopeful. And of course, I also don't take anything for granted, as one of my colleagues just said, but we're hopeful we can get this one out early as a pre-file and move it forward so that it can't be held or be well, there can't be any shenanigans in the last few minutes like there were last year. So the idea of this bill is that it addresses the environmental contamination that's associated with neglected wastewater systems or septics, right? So this legislation is important for a lot of reasons. It came about with the help of a whole lot of people, and we call ourselves Team Septic. So I'm happy to be a member of Team Septic officially. I know we have Ellie Bassett here from Clean Water Action, and they were lead advocates on this bill. And I agree with you, Marie. Nobody should risk their health to move leaves. So I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chats. I'll try not to do that. It was referred to Team Septic last year by one of the testimonies as being an unholy alliance of environmentalists and industry representatives who are working to solve the same problems. And we don't see that a lot in legislation and in the General Assembly. So it's pretty exciting. The legislation requires that septic systems must be inspected and pumped out at the time of property transfer if these services haven't been performed and certified within the last 3 years. So this 3-year timeline was suggested by the Maryland On-Site Wastewater Association, again, the industry association. And the reason behind this bill is that there is clear evidence that failing septic systems contribute to water contamination and particularly high E. coli levels that can make human beings sick, right? But currently, we really don't know how much these are contributing to the problem because we don't require inspections at all. So this bill formalizes the best practices in the industry, and it protects homeowners and also renters, but mostly our environment and our water quality. So the reason that I sponsored this bill and was so excited about it is that I do spend a lot of time up here in my district on the Gunpowder River. And we always have excessive E. coli levels, particularly in the summer. Delegate Stein and I spoke with both state and county representatives a few years ago, heard a lot of different reasons why this might be happening, but it was actually the river keepers who finally said very directly, look, one of the biggest contributors to this has to be all of these aging septic systems from these very old and often beautiful historic homes that are right along the Gunpowder River. And so that's how this bill was born. Let's see. We did put a few changes into the bill last year that weren't original to the first draft, and that is that we did exempt some family transfers We also decided to put some compliance enforcement into the bill, which I believe is really, really important. So after you have this, you certify that it's a completion of inspection, but you also have to certify a completion of repair if you have and have to report a failing septic system. So there's a little bit of pushback on this, or it wouldn't have got installed at the last minute, but I feel good about it, and I think we're going to get it passed this year. I want to turn it over to Ellie now to see if she has anything that she wants to add and to answer any extra questions. Thanks so
Thank you
much for
so much,
being.
Vice Chair, and congrats again, well deserved, for your new role in ENT. And I thank you again for bringing this back. I am Ellie Bassett. I'm the Southwest Road Riverkeeper with Arundel Rivers. I'm one of the proud members of Team Septic. Emily Ranson is actually out with Clean Water Action on maternity leave, much deserved. She just had a baby boy like 2 weeks ago. Congrats to her. But, I want to thank the delegate for bringing this important bill. I run a water quality monitoring program, like many of my fellow river keepers, Matt included, and constantly we are seeing high E. coli numbers without clear sources in areas of high septic homes or high septic neighborhoods. And, pollution from septic systems might be small in the grand scheme of looking at bay pollution, but when you're focusing on the hyper focused level of your kids are swimming in this creek, your kids are swimming in this river, absolutely it is a human health impact. And many people just don't know that they may have a failing septic system, right? Inspections during transfers, inspections during new lease transfers is the easiest way to identify when failures are happening, report it, and make sure that they're fixed. This is a win for homeowners, a win for health department, workers, and a win for water enthusiasts. I'm here. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have with Delegate Guyton. And otherwise, I'm looking forward to passing this thing this year.
Great. Well, thank you both. I love this bill because at the time of sale of a house, both the seller and the buyer are motivated to close the deal. And so if the septic is, one of those things that the deal is hinging on, hopefully that'll bring some motivated people to the table. I'm curious, where do the realtors fall on this? Have you had any outreach with them, and do you see any support coming from the realtors?
So I always try to have outreach with any of the involved parties, and certainly the realtors are. The realtors, to be honest, they don't want extra things to have to monitor, but they did not come out strongly against this bill, and I don't really expect that they will this year either.
Yeah, great. Awesome.
Now I
Well,
have heard, and not to throw a kink in the works, but just so everyone, I have heard that the Mako may be a little more interested. They had no problem with it last year. They may be a little more interested this year because we are requiring the reporting and the compliance piece through the counties. And so we'll see how that goes. We'll be in contact with them and try to work things out and smooth everything over. But I feel that since we got so far with pretty much this exact language last year, that we should be all right.
yeah.
Mm,
That's great. Well, I really appreciate your leadership. Congratulations again,
thank
Delegate
you.
Guyton, on the appointment of Vice Chair of ENT. I'm sure you'll be seeing many of us this coming legislative session helping to advocate on all these great bills that are being brought forward.
And I will welcome you all. Thanks so much.